Imagine a whole group of people in your company or your client's company who are as passionate about running the business as you are. You don't have to go out and hunt down these people. You can create them. When you do that, when you find somebody who can do that, you'll end up with entire companies of great leaders. These people will take ownership, they care, they think, they'll make smart decisions, and they encourage the people around them to do the same thing. What makes a great leader? Is there somebody you think of that's great? What makes them great? Speak up.
Empathy.
Okay. Love it. What else?
Personal insight.
Keep going.
Listening skills.
Ethics, and I heard something.
Listening.
Listening. I couldn't hear you. Sorry about that. Listening skills. I'd like to, and these are great things, but there's something about all of these that's hidden that we may not notice. All of these are personality related, meaning they're connected to a person. Okay? The great leaders embed greatness in the organization. They create cultures of permanent excellence that last even when the leaders leave the organization. You can do this. Your clients can do this. It isn't hard. And we have a lot of other companies we can look at who have done similar things, and they've had tremendous results. But the problem is, when you look at their stories, you find some great book, you read the story, all the stories are different. How do you apply these stories to your own situation? Well, it turns out, if you look more closely at all their stories, they have common elements. And these common elements are the same things that I found in my efforts as a turnaround guy. These are the same things that are required when you want to transform an organization. So if we look at their common stories, their common elements of their stories and past experience, we can put it together in a model. This is what we call the Handsoff Leadership Roadmap. Now take a look at this model. You guys are experts with businesses. Does anything strike you as odd about this? Keep in mind that we build this from the bottom up. Does anything look odd or strange? Does anything look out of place in this pyramid? What, Dino?
Vision.
Vision. What is that? What is vision doing almost last?
You start there.
Okay.
Well, every place else you start.
Every place else you start there. Okay, here's the problem with that. Most companies, when they turn this around and they want to build, they want to say, okay, what do we want to produce? What kind of results do we want? What does our vision, our mission need to be? Okay, let's start getting focused on that. Let's make sure we have the capability to deliver on that. Let's get clarity around roles. Oh, okay, and then let's work on our culture. Here's the problem. You created this company, and then you say, hey guys, we want your feedback. Well, you already told them the vision. You already established the direction. You built the organization from the top down, and you ask people to talk, and you get silence. Whereas if you start down here and you create a culture where it's safe and effective to speak up, then when you finally make sure that you've got the clarity, the capability, the focus, you say, what should our vision be? You get all kinds of ideas because they're owners in the business. So we need to stop giving orders, and we need to encourage thinking and feeling and initiative, and this is one way you can do it, by asking. Great leaders ask great questions, and these are the kinds of questions that you can ask. But just asking the right questions isn't enough. We have to give authority to these people, actual authority. Great leaders give authority, not orders. If we give orders, we create followers. If we give authority, what do we create? Yeah, they have to take action. Okay? And here's how you do it. You can't give them authority and power all at once, but we give them power as quickly as they're capable of handling it. We call these leadership steps. And the interesting thing about, this is a progression. You start by telling. This may be the most important part of this. When there's a lack of clarity, you have to provide it. So you will tell when they lack clarity. Okay? If there's a lack of capability, you're going to step beside them and train them. Then once there's clarity and capability, there's stability in the organization, then you're going to coach them to create greater ownership. And then you reach this great point where the company's stable, there's clarity, there's capability, they've taken ownership, and you get to step away. That doesn't mean you do nothing, but it means you become a mentor more than a coach, which is passive. They come to you. So let's talk about crisis. You mentioned crisis. How does your team respond, or your client's team respond in a crisis? What do you see happening here?
Looking at Captain Kurt. What do we do?
What's wrong with this picture? There are lots of things wrong with this picture.
She's the one that actually has that line.
She's standing up.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
He's feeling the stress.
They're all looking at you very serious.
And their mouths are closed.
Oh, okay, that's great. What's going on here?
He's looking a little frustrated.
He's thinking. He's thinking.
Well, do you see his shirt here? His shirt's all ripped up. Captain sprung into action. He must have been fighting aliens or something. He's been solving the problems, and now they're looking for some words of great wisdom from his mouth. Okay? This is terrible. This kind of approach to handling a crisis, that's not the future. Okay? That's old-fashioned leadership. When you've got a crisis, remember this principle. Never let a perfectly good crisis go to waste. A crisis is an opportunity to create leaders. So, let's give you some examples here. This is the USS Santa Fe. I mentioned the book earlier by David Marquet. He was told by the Pentagon he was going to command a new submarine. Cool. So he spent a year learning this submarine because the captain has to know the ship better than anyone else so the captain can give orders. 1 month before he was going to take command, they changed his assignment. Gave him a totally different submarine. Not only that, they gave him the crew that was the worst in the fleet. Matter of fact, when they would train people and say, you know, this is the kind of crew you want, and all these happy sailors, you don't want a crew like this one. That was the Santa Fe, the picture that they would show. They gave him that crew, and then they said, you have to be ready to deploy really fast. We need you out to sea. That's a crisis, okay? What do you do? I'm glad you asked that question. How long does it take to change a culture? Well, if I want to design my own designer culture, and I want the culture to be like this, and I want the culture to be like that, that's going to take years, okay? But if you're giving people a vanilla culture that they've been begging for and crying for years by just getting out of their way, it's very hard to change a culture. It's extremely easy to unleash a culture. And the best indicator of culture in your company is your meetings. So you start there. You say, we want to create leaders, and then you change the meeting format, and one day, they start to think and act like leaders. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, I need to come to yours. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for being here.